Guys, welcome to I guess it's now we talking the Matt and Toddcast. A little name change. Switched over from the Ocean State Athlete Podcast.
Did we get a trademark on that yet, or what?
It's in the works. It's in the works. A little bit more fitting for what we're going to be doing. It's going to be less about spotlights on Ocean State and Rhode Island athletes and coaches. Still going to have some Rhode Island themes to it, but a lot more of a I guess you'd call what, sports variety show now, Todd? A little mixture of everything.
Yeah, I think that's good sports variety. That sounds right.
Yeah, that sounds about right. But I think where we go from here, I think everybody will be kind of excited. We're going to cover a lot more national sports. We're going to bring in people from all around the country that have different opinions, so we can kind of also get some ideas of what's going on in their area and with their local sports.
Okay.
So it's going to be fun. And we are going to take a quick hiatus after this week, too, because I'm having a baby. So
that's right. A little paternity leave for you.
Yeah, exactly. I wonder if I'm going to get paid for that. But this
week, you get paid?
Yeah, big time bucks. Big time.
Oh, okay. I thought I'm donating my illustrious salary for this to charity.
Yeah. I don't know if I could buy a coffee yet with what I've gotten paid, but I'm catching up.
All right, it adds up.
Exactly. So this week we got a special guest early on the show. We're going to bring in Vinny Gebhart. He's a Warwick City Council Ward 9 Democratic nominee. We're going to have a quick discussion about voting, about politics, what's going on in the area. Let's bring on Vinny. Vinny, hey, what's up, bud?
Hey, guys, what's going on?
Hey.
Things are good. Good to have you on. We're excited that you were able to come on. What's up,
this guy?
What's up, Ronnie?
Boss.
Whoa.
Boss.
My bad. Sorry, guys.
No problem, Ronnie. I do like the subtitle on that, the boss. I think that was just a power move, letting us know that, guys, I'm watching you.
Apparently.
So, Vinny, you're the new Ward 9 Democratic nominee. Let's give us a little rundown of what your platform is and what's going on for Ward 9 in Warwick.
Yeah, right on. So thanks for having me. First off, Matt and Todd, this is awesome. Love the new logo and the new name. Very cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm running for city council in Warwick. You were saying earlier that this is somewhat of your COVID project, and I guess I guess city council is kind of mine. We've had the same city council person in this part of Warwick for about 20 years. So it was time for a change. He actually ran for Senate, which opened up
Senate?
For state Senate. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, he didn't make it through the primary. But I've always been interested in local government. I'm on a few nonprofit boards. I like to fill my time. I'm just not that great at sitting still. It's a big city, Warwick. $330 million budget. A lot of complex issues. Just like a lot of cities and towns have, but you need strong leadership to see your way through some of this stuff. And we'll get into a few of the topics later around kids and school and sort of what's happening nationally and globally with the pandemic and everything. But at the time when I was looking at the race, there were two very well-intentioned, great kids running, both under 23 years old. And I just thought, I'm excited that people are excited to contribute, but I really felt like I had the experience, I had the passion, and with what was happening just for me personally with work and everything, being, pretty slow over the summer months, that I had the time to get through the campaign. And then that I had the time to dedicate to, being an active member of the council, if I get elected. So I'm really looking forward to it. So that was the beginning. And then since then I've knocked on 2,000 doors, including yours.
Yeah.
I've been everywhere. People text me all the time, like, I just saw you walking up Love Lane, just saw you walking up Queeset Road. And that part has been really cool, to get to know neighbors, to get to talk about what's important to them, what topics are on their mind, all that kind of stuff has been pretty awesome. So, yeah.
How's it been with knocking on doors during a pandemic?
My experience has been great, actually, because I think a lot of people hadn't talked to anyone in months. They're like,
There's like complete reverse. Yeah, come on in, man, get in here.
Fresh faces.
And it's funny how, I'm a first-time campaigner, right? This is my first foray, but one of the dynamics, especially about campaigning in New England, is like you start, especially if you have a primary, you start in like May or June and you go through the summer. And if you're fortunate enough to win the primary in September, so you have this whole summer season. So I was knocking on doors in July and August. I don't know if you remember this summer, like every night was 100 degrees.
Yeah.
I lost like 15 pounds. It was brutal, but so you're out there, and then all of a sudden you win the primary and you're like, oh, I'll just do that again. And then, the sun starts setting an hour earlier and an hour earlier. Now it's like 5:40, 5:50 is sunset. And so the days get shorter, it gets colder, the weather gets worse. So it's funny to see the sort of the arc of the campaign and just through the seasons.
So for city council, do you self-fund your campaign? That's part of it?
Yeah.
So that's a big commitment.
Yeah. So, or do you get donations? You need to get your name out there, right? Yeah. I definitely had friends and family who were super generous, and who knew, that this would be something that I would be good at. I used to joke with people who I was asking for money. Like, if I had $1 for every time somebody told me to run for something, I wouldn't have to ask you for money. But $100, So yeah, you do, like, people kick in money, you do fundraiser. I did, this is a tough year to fundraise, but I did, like a socially distanced fundraiser at Huck's over on Main Street. And then last week I did a drive-in movie.
How was that, by the way?
We weren't
able to come. It
was awesome. We did Hocus Pocus.
Appropriate.
And we had like 200 people. Cool. We had to go through the whole, COVID plan. Department of Health came out. They actually gave out free masks to everyone who came. Awesome. But, everyone stayed in their cars. We had to solve for concessions. That was one of the big things the state was concerned about is, if you're going to have concessions available, we don't want people standing in line. That's like their number one no-no. So we actually had people text us the orders. And then Jill, my wife Jill was the expediter, and then I had like 10 other friends just volunteer. So we were like getting the text, put the order in, and then bring whatever, popcorn, cotton candy, fried Oreos, and then we would run it to their car. And that's how we were able to do it. But it was awesome. Like, people had a great time. The kids had a blast. Everyone loves Hocus Pocus. So it was a good time.
They're coming out with another one, right? Totally off topic. I think they're
really.
I'm pretty sure. I'll check during the break with
one. That's just not enough.
Exactly.
You gotta have more Hocus Pocus.
1993, so that movie's got some years on it.
So the people watching and listening, give them a little bit of your background. For a reason, not what qualifies you, but what skills that you've had in the past that will make you be a really good addition to the city council.
Thanks. So just like background, I grew up in Cranston, which I'm not supposed to say in Warwick, but cool. but I did. I went to LaSalle High School, and I went to Providence.
What year did you graduate?
college or high
LaSalle.
school? LaSalle, 99.
Oh, so
She was in my class.
you're my year, so you wouldn't know my wife. She went to LaSalle too.
Okay.
Right.
And I went to Providence College, studied computer science, and that's, I've basically worked in technology in one form or another for the last 20 years. So part of that was in the restaurant business. So I was like a consultant for technology around restaurants. Part of that was just in more like pure IT type stuff. And then the last like 10 years or so has mostly been management around technology. So either in software companies or high tech companies. And really that last, probably 5 or 7 years, I've been, really passionate about building my leadership chops. And I did Leadership Rhode Island in 2015, which is like a statewide leadership program, works with people from all sectors, for-profit, nonprofit, government, public service, and sort of like helps them become better leaders. So I did the program in 2015. I was so passionate about it. I actually joined the board in 2016. I've been on the board ever since. So, I'm about bringing people together. I think we have a lot of problems. We have a lot of challenges. We have a lot of issues in front of us, but just focusing on those isn't going to get us anywhere. We need to have dialogue. We need to be able to talk amongst ourselves to like figure out what are the solutions that we can put together moving forward. We need to be good neighbors to each other. We need to focus on kids and schools and how we build a brighter future for them. Those are some of the things that I'm passionate about. Selfishly, I want my kids to have the best education possible. I want them to go to school with all these great friends and that we've made in the neighborhood. That like dynamic that happens around a really good public school, where you have a neighborhood that all the kids go to the same school and it's very close knit. And that's a really nice thing to have as a community. And, that's what I'd like to see my kids grow up in that.
That sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Being a neighbor. Yeah. Because I think that's the number one building block is the public school system.
Yeah.
Everything kind of stems off of that, in my opinion. And, you attract more people to the area, keep kids in the public school system if it's good, if it's good and consistent. I mean, I'm a product of going to public school in Connecticut, and I kind of, my town had what you're talking about.
Yep.
So I would love to see that for Warwick. Yeah.
And, even for people who don't have kids in the schools, if you look right next door in East Greenwich, they have, a lot of our neighborhoods in Ward 9 have an East Greenwich zip code and address their mail East Greenwich. So the communities really blend into each other, but you'll see the property values are considerably higher in East Greenwich proper. And most of that is predicated on just having a reputation for having better schools.
Right.
That's a huge area of economic growth for us as a community. Because if we can build up, not just the schools, but also the reputation of the schools, then, that can be a big boost to property values. And so even if you don't have kids in the school, for a lot of people, their home is their single biggest asset. Yeah. So if you can appreciate your single biggest asset by, X percent, based on, not an improvement you made, but on the performance of schools and having a vibrant community that people are, desire to move into, that's a win-win for everybody.
What do you think that entails? Building a new high school? More funding? Where do you start?
Yeah, so facilities are a big part of it. The newest school in Warwick is Tollgate. It was built 50 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's got, it's got some age on it, and the rest of the schools do too, right? So we've just got older schools, and there's been a funding gap for a number of years where, teachers have to get paid in order to show up. Retirement plans have to get funded. Pensions have to get funded. You got to buy books. You got to turn the lights on. And then what ends up suffering is, we really should put a new roof, but that's preventative. We could probably wait another year. We could probably wait another year. We could probably wait another year. And then all of a sudden it's a crisis. And that's where we're at in a lot of these schools. They've just deteriorated to the point where the repairs are no longer sort of a preventative nature. Now it's like, okay, you got to rip the whole roof off and put a whole new roof on, and that costs $100,000 or whatever.
So do you think it's raising more revenues and with more higher tax dollars, or is it reallocating the budget and making some cuts?
Yes. So I'm not a big fan of raising taxes. I think that part of this whole plan of like keeping people in their of improving the community for people is not to push people out, right? So there's a bunch of things available, right? So federally and at the state level, there are buckets of money for infrastructure improvements, especially now attached to some of the COVID related measures to go into place. So, we have to get really, really savvy at finding those. For instance, the Rhode Island Department of Education, if you look around the state, East Providence, South Kingstown, both building brand new high schools right now. And they're getting a significant portion of the cost to build that school paid for by through the state. And then the state's getting funds from the Fed to make it work. So we need to find those areas of opportunity. But the other thing, I don't know if either of you have refinanced a home recently, but if you're gonna borrow money to do a big project, now is the time. Because 5 years from now, if the rates come up 2 or 3 points, all of a sudden now you're going to be able to do 30 or 40% less of a project than if you had just bit the bullet and did it now. So I think that's part of the calculus here too.
So we discuss this all the time at my office or at work. And when you see Post Road near the airport, right?
Yep.
Do you guys have it, or have you talked amongst any of your constituents about plans on improving the area near the airport? Because I feel as if you land, like if you're not from the area, you land at TF Green, get me to 37 and 95, head north or south, and let's avoid this area, at all costs. And I do
there. What, you not a big Bertucci's fan, man?
Yeah, but I feel like it's missed opportunity.
Yeah.
Because I feel like you have the space and you have the money where those dollars don't need to go to other cities and other towns. There's no need, obviously Newport's Newport. You're going to go south, you're going to go by the water. But you could build an area around that would allow people that would want to stay in that airport area. Has anything like that been discussed that you've heard moving forward?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I don't know all of those plans, but what I will say is over the last 6 years, I've definitely watched press releases and read articles about the investment that's already been made. Right, they built that train station, the people mover across. They were calling that wasn't it like the innovation zone or So I think that there's some efforts that have been made, but government can't build an economy in an area, right? It can sort of push it along. It can help stimulate in some ways, but businesses have to see an opportunity and then make a decision to seize it.
Well, I think my office is right there. I'm on Senator Street because I work for Avis.
Okay. Yeah.
So I think, Matt, your prayers have been answered. because I'm pretty sure Hooters is reopening right there. I drove by it the other day.
Okay,
So
you know what? All
you
problems.
know, when a Hooters is coming to town, that is a
The
sign.
whole thing. Yeah.
That's it. And there's a Starbucks. We got Starbucks down the street. So, you know, I mean, it could be on the
you
come
have a
already.
Starbucks, you have a Hooters. You know, maybe they
What
can
else do you
keep.
need?
I think they have the Cash for Gold spot like a block away.
Yeah,
So you
that's
know,
a good spot.
but you see these
There's that
areas.
old bar on the right at airport and Post Road that's been a million different things. It's got a lot of potential.
But even if you gave the front of the buildings a facelift, where it was
Yeah.
just a more modern look, and the same local places stayed, you could bring. There are a lot of nice restaurants where people, you know, you could open a satellite location. So like my wife's family, they live in Chicago, so they have a lot of great restaurants in Chicago. And then in I want to say it's not Aurora, it'll come to me, but they have a little smaller satellite restaurants in the suburbs. Like what you should have those types of restaurants in Warwick where they could fill up those spaces, still owned by local people, keep the money in the community, and to keep the people in town to, you know, those are tax dollars. Those are dollars that'll go to rebuild things in Warwick.
Yeah.
I'm not running for city council. What do I know?
Yeah.
Are you
we
sure?
We are gonna take a quick break, guys.
Right.
Check out the Tom Gronkowski show here on SFBN right at 9:00. When we come back, we're gonna continue this with Vinny. We're gonna discuss a few more of his takes on politics. We're gonna discuss some COVID and sports, and then we have the week in sports. Take a look. And now we're talking the Toddcast. I gotta get. But we're here with Vinny Gebhart, Democratic nominee for Ward 9, Warwick City Council, and we were obviously discussing, discussing plans, for City of Warwick, things we can do. Let's discuss a little bit the effects of COVID in sports. Obviously, what has happened. Canceled football. They still have, with good weather, we've able to have some outdoor sports at a minimal capacity, I guess you would say. But now heading into the winter, what do you foresee, and what do you kind of see the plan going forward? I'm sure, obviously, being a nominee, you're able to see some insight in what the city's, planning on doing, and give us a scoop.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of that I think is still unknown. The way the city is run, the school committee, drives a lot of those school decisions. The city council is responsible for the budget attached to it.
Yeah.
And I mean, in Warwick, we're still struggling to get kids back into school. The different grades are still phasing their way back into school, and are not, most are still distance learning at least 3 days a week, if not 5 days a week. So, it's very, it's gonna be a big challenge. So I don't quite know what's going to happen there, but
what do you think's different about Rhode Island versus other states? Well, why has it been a struggle for, say, Warwick or even the state of Rhode Island to bring sports back, and even what you're talking about with schools, when you've got other states that have managed to do it and are kind of carrying on with life,
Yeah, it's a good. So it's a good question. One piece is what I mentioned to you earlier, which is we have very old facilities. So if you go down into, Georgia, suburbs of Atlanta, you go down into Texas, you have, areas that 10 years ago was a dust field and now is like a city that sprung out of nowhere. And so they have 10-year-old facilities with 10-year-old HVAC systems and 10-year-old windows. And, we've got 60, 70, 80, 100-year-old buildings. And so, that's a big part of sort of the legacy challenge that we have, is that, we're just an older community. And, like I said, we haven't made enough investments to modernize the buildings. And so we just kind of lag behind. When it comes to sports, I think the school committee has a real challenge on their hands, because parents, while they're passionate about sports, they want the kids in school. Like, if you had to ask most parents to stack rank their priorities, like, do I want my kids back in school 5 days a week, or 4 or 3? Or do I want, Johnny to be able to go play football? And I think most parents, at least that I talk to, prioritize the school first. So then it becomes hard, if to bring that football team back requires budget and spending money and whatever to make things safer, then, you have to deal with the parents who are saying, well, hold on a sec. So you're going to spend money so Johnny and his 20 friends can play football, but you're not going to spend money so all the other kids can go back to school. And so I think that.
So it's a financial thing.
It definitely in part. I
don't think, if aside from being a financial thing, in my opinion, it shouldn't be mutually exclusive. I think school should be able to come back, assuming that they have the resources to make things safe. And then football would be just a part of that, or sports or basketball or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. So
it sounds like it's a financially driven, where we just don't have the resources to make it, I guess, quote, safe enough. I mean, that's a relative term, to do both. Correct?
Yeah. So there are sports happening.
Yeah.
Not all the sports, and probably not, full strength. A lot of that's dictated by, what's happening, coming out of the governor's office too, which sports are safe and which ones, you can play at full strength, and which ones you have to, distance or mask or whatever. There's a lot to it, but, I think it's super important that, kids can go to school and play sports.
Right.
So, we need to keep helping both the school committee and the school administrators, the principals and the superintendent, to figure out ways to get us back to where we need to be. But, if you're watching the news now, you're seeing like, hey, we've got another sort of surge coming, where, there's going to be, I think, a push to pull back somewhat as we go into the colder months here. So, it's probably not over yet. But yeah, it's definitely painful.
Yeah, it's been depressing. It's been, we were talking about it before we came on the air, just this whole sports season, especially national sports and even the local season. Like, it just doesn't seem real. It just seems, it's very, very off. Like I was talking to him, I hadn't been able to tell him, Todd, I haven't been able to follow much of the baseball season. It just seems kind of odd. There's no,
it's been a weird year for sure, but I do think that professional and college sports leagues, conferences deserve a heck of a lot of credit for being able to put a product on the field. They've navigated the speed bumps. Obviously, you had the Marlins outbreak early in the season. Everybody was like, oh my God, the season's going to get canceled. It didn't get canceled. It was fine. The Titans went through their thing. The Patriots, it's fine. I think sports is a good scope of shows people that, look, we can still do things during this pandemic. And people are going to test positive. I don't think it was ever meant to say that nobody's going to get COVID-19.
Right.
The whole idea was to slow the spread, to buy us time for the healthcare system and to develop a vaccine and treatment, which I think has been done based on the research I've done. So I think sports, you get people out there that really bang on sports leagues for, the SEC and coming back. Big Ten didn't want to come back. The SEC did. Then Big Ten followed suit. I don't think they've gotten enough credit, to be honest with you, for just showing the way, leading the way back to like normal life in a sense. We've got fans in the stands now. It shows that you can go by the guidelines and you can still do things. Maybe it's not normal and 100% normal.
Mm-hmm.
You can still do things, and that's so. Yeah, it's definitely been a weird season, but I mean, we've still had a lot of drama in sports, that's for sure. But what about last night? Did you watch the game last night, the World Series?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay. So what's your take on that? On Justin Turner? Did you hear about that?
I did not. No.
Okay, so Justin Turner, third baseman for the Dodgers, big time player. He gets lifted in the 8th inning. The Dodgers are up 3-1, and in basically a Game 6 situation. They're 4 or 5 outs, I think, at the time, 6 outs maybe, from winning the World Series for the first time since '88. He gets lifted. Nobody knows why. They find out that he tested positive, or his results came back late, and he supposedly tested positive. He gets lifted. He has to go isolate. Dodgers go on to win the World Series, and the teammates and the management staff and all the players and wives said, no, get Justin Turner out here. We want him out here to celebrate. So the Dodgers and Major League Baseball are getting a ton of backlash for him coming back on the field and not isolating. And his stance is, well, first of all, my teammates are okay with it, so they're the only ones in close contact with me. And by the way, we just played 8 innings of a Major League Baseball game. So what's another 10 minutes, right? So, but it just seems like people like to grab onto these stories to just kind of bang on Major League Baseball like that instead of just saying, all right, well, what's realistic about this? But I mean, it's a big story that people are talking about. It's kind of overshadowed a little bit of the Dodgers win.
Yeah, that's too bad.
Yeah.
So before we head out, we're gonna cut to a break and we're gonna let Vinny go after this. But let's where can they anybody watching or listening, where can they get out to vote early? Let them know where they can vote in your area, where the drop boxes are, and where they can find any information, any voters who are kind of on the fence, who haven't already decided after listening to this podcast to vote for you. But anybody who's borderline, let's figure out, let them know where they can find your information.
Okay, great. So anyone anywhere in the United States who may be listening to this can vote early and go to their Secretary of State website, right? In Rhode Island, you go to sos.ri.gov/vote, and you can find all the early polling places. But specifically in Warwick, in Apponaug at City Hall, side door, up to the second floor. You just bring your license, check in. They'll give you a ballot. You can do that tomorrow, 8:30 to 4:30. You can do that Friday, 8:30 to 4:30. You can do that Monday, 8:30 to 4. After that, your option will be Election Day, November 3rd. There are 3 polling locations open in our ward, and so in our area of Warwick, St. Greg's, First Baptist, and Potawatomi Golf Club. So get out and vote. If you need to drop off a mail ballot, that drop box is also at City Hall. It's right outside that door where you would go in to go vote early. If you need information on me, vote the number 4vinny.com. That's my website. You can find information. You can make a donation. You can sign up to get a lawn sign. You can sign up to help out at the polls on Tuesday. So yeah, very much appreciate Matt, you and Todd thinking of me and inviting me to come along. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate it. I hope you had fun. I hope you come on after you win.
Yeah, let's do it.
You can gloat. I think you should sign Todd up for a lawn sign. He'll be the one, the one sticking out on his neighborhood.
Only one that does that. Yeah.
But
you can swing by and drop one off. You know where I live.
Yeah.
Joe, come by with the baby.
But thank you so much for coming on, Vinny. We appreciate it. We're going to take a quick break, and thanks so much.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Vinny.
Hey guys, welcome back. Now we're talking the Matt and Todd cast episode. I believe it's episode 10 now, right?
Is it?
Yeah, I think that was a great discussion. What do you think? You got to
Yeah,
know
it
a
was
neighbor.
good. What's
You got
that?
to know a neighbor. You got to know a neighbor
I know.
today.
Got a neighbor. Of course, I forgot which street he lives on after he told me in the pre-show. But yeah, that's cool. Yeah, seems like a pretty sharp dude, and I like his ideas and pretty down to earth. So yeah,
Vinny's a good choice for Warwick.
Okay.
I've known Vinny since in high school. We had similar friends. I went to school with his cousin, and obviously we both went to college with his wife.
right.
So let's get to the week in sports. Usually
All
we do it
right.
at the beginning, but now we're at the end.
Sure.
Also, guys, a couple things before we get to that, which I probably should have mentioned. Email your mailbag questions to askmattandtodd@gmail.com. You get a free T-shirt and a hat since
And a hat.
and a hat. We have that. You can get us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe, like, let us know what you think, so we can constantly make improvements, have some fun. So you want to go baseball, or should we start with football? You want to get football out of the way
Let's
before
get
we go?
NFL out of the way.
All right. What was your takeaway from the week?
Well, NFL football. Well, obviously, the 49ers took it to the Patriots. That was quite a drubbing. So that was the game I was watching for sure. I'm a 49er fan. It was Jimmy G's return back to Foxborough. So that was pretty much my takeaway. And I think it's simultaneously Brady was, putting a hurting on the Vegas Raiders at the same time. So it was a rough day. I think it's been a
Vegas
rough.
Raiders. That still sounds weird.
Yeah, I know.
Vegas Raiders.
It's a rough time for New England football for Patriots fans, and they've not experienced. You're a Patriots fan. You haven't experienced this since pre-Brady, and
I'm enjoying it, to be very honest.
you are okay.
I'm enjoying it because you go on Twitter, you go on Instagram, and there's a lot of the hardcore Patriots fans that now it seems like they have Bucks beanies.
Oh yeah,
Tom Brady jerseys. I mean, you know what? It's
so ridiculous.
It reminds me of what the 07, 08, 09 Celtics when the big three left after we got rid of.
And they went to Brooklyn.
And then nobody was a Celtics fan for like 3 years.
Well, that happens.
But I'm enjoying the purge because you don't want them anyways. And listen, you can't sustain greatness for 2 decades.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, what they've done is unprecedented. I grew up a 49er fan. I remember when Joe Montana went to the Chiefs. I didn't go out and get a Chiefs gear. I'm a 49er fan. I just started liking Steve Young now. Yeah. He's our guy. There's just so much. It's so polarized though because of how they handled it. And we even do the Bill versus Tom. I mean, he's on his back now. He's struggling.
If he went with Jarrett Stidham from the beginning, I kind of feel as if he would have a significantly better chance to win more weeks. But if Jarrett was improving, but you're with Cam Newton, you went all in on Cam, which, as the Panthers have shown, is not a good idea.
Yeah.
Besides his suits, he's awful.
He stinks. I mean, I watched it. He was throwing it in the ground. He couldn't reach receivers. He threw 3 picks. A couple of them were really awful. I think the last one was just a deflection that just popped up in the air. It's not really his fault, but Stidham didn't look much better. I thought they probably should have benched Cam at halftime and let Stidham start the second half at 22-3 down. By the time they brought him in, it was too late anyway. The game was over anyway.
Brian Hoyer action. You can have some Brian Hoyer.
Well, he didn't dress. So.
Yeah, exactly.
But the game was over.
Yeah.
I mean, the 49ers really, they had a couple holding penalties early. One that took away like a definite scoring drive. they could have been up 35-0 at halftime easily. That game was
110%.
over very quick. You could see it. The 49ers did whatever they wanted to do. It was good to see. As being a Niner fan, I mean, they're going to have their work cut out for them. They got more injuries. Debo went down.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was definitely my NFL takeaway. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Nothing else like huge happened. The
I have a
Cowboys
personal
look
one.
like garbage.
Oh, they're you know what?
Oh boy, are they bad.
They should just start tanking now.
Yeah.
They
And
should
you know
start
what?
selling off.
We got to suffer through the Sunday night game this coming week is the Eagles and the Cowboys. The Cowboys might start their third string quarterback.
Oh my
They
God.
need to get off that game. No one's going to watch that.
Can they flex that yet? Can they flex that game?
I would think they would have already done it if they could, but I still think that the thought is that the Cowboys will still bring eyeballs.
They'll draw.
The Cowboys are still good for ratings.
And you watch Carson Wentz, throw it to phantom receivers. It's going to be horrible. I had my game of the week, which I think probably a lot of people's were, and mostly mine was because of my fantasy team. I got to watch Kyler Murray.
Oh, that was a good game.
Again, but I was really impressed. One, Kyler Murray, my starting fantasy quarterback, not this week. I have a little Derek Carr action. But I'm really impressed with Cliff Kingsbury.
Yeah, he's a good coach.
As an NFL coach, and really what he has to bring to the game. And you know what? He's impressive. And he puts Kyler Murray in positions to win. It was kind of exciting to watch two quarterbacks, one that is essentially a younger version of himself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kyler Murray, you're seeing a lot of Russell Wilson. Not that he's going to be
as
good as Russell, but he has a lot of skill. He has a lot of skill.
Yeah, Kyler's good. I mean, and Kingsbury's good too. I thought that hire got a lot of criticism.
Yeah, we discussed that last week a little bit.
But Kingsbury knows how to coach.
Yeah.
And it's just his time too. His vision for offense is just so timely right now. What they run, so he's a perfect fit right now. He probably wouldn't have fit 5-6 years ago, but he's perfect for right now.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I've always liked Kingsbury, even back at Texas Tech.
He's got great hair too.
He does. Did you see that? Did you see the NFL draft picture he tweeted out of his house?
Yes.
Cliff Kingsbury living his best life.
Living the dream.
But yeah. So really, I mean, I talked about briefly about the World Series with Vinny, but I mean, I got all fired up last night because I'm so tired of these managers, these nerds, these analytics geeks that have injected themselves into the sport of baseball. It's ridiculous. Blake Snell struck out 9 through 5 innings. He allowed no runs and 2 hits. He had no hit stuff.
How many pitches you said?
I'm not really sure how many he had.
Yeah, 70s or 80, right?
Yeah, 70s or 80s. It wasn't. He was efficient. I mean, you could tell by the way his rhythm in the game, the way he was working, that he was just like they were not going to hit him that night, And you used to see that with pitchers like Kurt Schilling and Pedro and Clemens through the years. Even Randy Johnson. These guys, they get the ball, Cliff Lee, and you just have this feeling that it's their show, and you're not touching them tonight, and that's all there is to it. And Blake Snell had that look, but it didn't matter because the stat geeks and the analytic nerds have decided that it's just not good for a starter to face a lineup the third time through. So certainly the 5 1/3, the lineup turns over to Mookie Betts. Keep in mind, Blake Snell struck out Mookie Betts twice that game and made him look pretty bad both times. And here comes Kevin Cash to take him out because the book says can't face the third time through. So what happens? The bullpen comes in and promptly blows the lead. They were up 1-0. They finished the inning down 2-1. They ended up losing 3-1. And it's just, I just can't understand why it's like these managers aren't even watching the game. They have no feel for the game anymore. And I saw it in Game 5 with Aaron Boone. for the Yankees. Garrett Cole's throwing a one-hitter and it's 5 1/3, and he goes and takes him out. He's got a 1-0 lead. Like, it was the same situation.
Well, don't you feel like they're not hiring the general managers aren't
Right.
hiring
I think that's
baseball
part
guys
of
as
it.
managers as
The managers are not what they used to be. They're not Buck Showalter or Joe Torre or, Terry Francona. These guys are not, making decisions from the dugout. The decisions are made before the game even, gets kicked off. And that's part of the problem because you get this whole room full of analytics nerds that have never played, have no feel for the game, and are just basically making decisions based on statistics, right? And that's fine over the course of a regular season, but it really needs to be thrown out the window in the playoff game because it doesn't bear out. Because it doesn't take into consideration that maybe like 5 times out of 10, Blake Snell his ERA is gonna go up the third time through the order, but stats don't look in Blake Snell's eyes and look at his body language and look at the opposing hitters that they can't really square the ball against them, and they don't take that into consideration, and that's why it's flawed, and it doesn't make any sense, and it's really frustrating.
Well, from somebody who doesn't play baseball. You weren't an athlete. You were. There's a reason you weren't an athlete.
Right. It's all statistics, and there's a place for it. I get it, but it doesn't. It basically what Kevin Cash told you was it doesn't matter if Blake Snell struck out every batter he faced. It doesn't matter. He is coming out the third time through the order. And that's exactly what happened, and it was so obvious. And you know what? I'm glad it cost him the game because something had to change. And the way the Rays do things, and I know they're a small market club and they have to do things differently.
Mhm.
But his 4 outfielders at the end of games and dramatic shifts and the way he uses his bullpen and things like that, I think baseball needs to legislate some of that out of it because it's turning a lot of fans off. It's like, you know, just like in the NFL, the baseball is the only sport that doesn't make any rule changes. They hardly make any rule changes ever. And there's no real reason for it. The NFL, look at the NBA. Look at the NBA in the 90s when you look at how they played defense in the 80s and 90s versus how they play defense now. That was made to benefit the offenses and make it more attractive to casual fans, more scoring. Look at the NFL. I make this argument all the time when people compare Brady to Montana. I say you can't compare the two because Montana played in a different era, and his career was cut short, frankly, because there was no rules against hitting the quarterback like there are in Brady's era. So Brady's able to keep playing at 43 years old. Montana's back was shot when he was in his early 30s because you saw the hits he took from Lawrence Taylor and guys like that. It's a different era. They changed those rules because they determined that the offense really drove rating.
Oh yeah,
And
100%.
even receivers, you can't touch. You used to be able to mug receivers that came across them, but now you can't touch them.
Remember what Rodney Harrison used to do to
Yeah,
Marvin Harrison? He used to just maul people coming across the middle.
that's Ronnie Lott. I mean,
Oh yeah.
you couldn't go across the middle. You're going to get knocked over. Now you can't do that. Baseball needs to take that lead and say these shifts have got to go because what the shifts have turned into, baseball has turned into home runs, walks, or strikeouts. And that's basically all people care about now. The problem is there's no action. Yeah, a home
Well,
run's fun,
it's
it's
home run derby.
exciting. Yeah, it's like a home run, but then he just runs around the bases, and that's it. If a lot of people think baseball has a length and pace of play problem, but I disagree. I think baseball has an activity problem. And base hits equals base runners equals activity equals decision making. And the more base hits, these hard, ground balls through the first and second base hole to score a run from second, they don't happen anymore now, right? And those keep stolen bases, keep pressure, keep activity going. And if baseball just got rid of these shifts and called it a legal defense like they do in the NBA, or if they call it a penalty in the NFL, it would go a long way. And then they can tweak other things to make the game faster. But I mean, like how
but you wouldn't mind sitting through a 4-hour game, 3.5
right
hour
as long
game,
as it's exciting.
If it's
Nope.
exciting, because how often do you watch a 3.5 hour football game with no
Right.
problem?
Nobody cares about the time of it, like as long as they're entertained.
Exactly.
I grew up watching Yankees Red Sox games, so I clearly don't care about how long the games, but they were exciting games. There was something going on all the pitches. It was just real tense and energetic, and there was action.
Think about the highlights that you see from Derek Jeter that they always show when they show ESPN. How many of them are home runs?
Not many.
And how many of them be made today because of the way they play baseball? None of them.
It's going away. I mean, like I said, Mike Wilbon put out a tweet last night, and he said he really can't blame Kevin Cash, I guess, and it's the way that things are played. But he said he's like these managers today would take out Bob Gibson and Sandy Koufax. They'd yank them, and it doesn't make any sense. Like, and frankly, these pitchers are soft now.
Oh yeah.
Like, I'll tell you right now, if you tried to take Roger Clemens out of that game last night, he would have pushed Joe Torre off the mound. Get away from me! You're not taking the ball from me.
So it's funny.
These guys are like, here you go. Here's the ball. See you later.
So last week
they're running off the mound. They don't even want to be on the mound.
So Ramon was on last week for Ball and RI, and he said, you have to specialize now. The kid, there's so much. The kids are better, so much, but they're not athletes. And the athletes of the 80s and 90s who played all sports, used different muscle groups, used them in different ways, could pitch all the time, and they were aggressive and they were winners. These kids now, not to talk bad about, a 12, 13-year-old kid, they're groomed to pitch their 7 innings, give the ball up. Yep. This is the math. It's horrible.
Oh, it's systemic. It is.
It's absolutely horrible.
It doesn't make any, especially this year too. Like we talked about how weird the season was. They only played 60 regular season games. Blake Snell might have made 10 starts. Usually in a regular year, he makes 35 starts. Like he's got plenty of bullets in his arm this year. I mean, this is game 6. This is
Until he's giving it up, you keep him on there. And even when he says he wants to come out, we're going to send you out for one more.
And here's a guy who won the Cy Young. I'm sorry, but I don't respect a Cy Young award winner. And that whole award is meaningless now.
Yeah. Because
starting pitching has been watered down.
Well, isn't the new thing that the Rays started? They have openers instead of close.
It doesn't make any sense, and it's like ridiculous. An opener can get you through the regular season, but it's too gimmicky. Gimmicks just don't work. It's really frustrating. But like, let's remember what relief pitchers are. Relief pitchers are failed starters. That's all there is to it. They're starters that couldn't get through. They couldn't develop a third pitch. They couldn't, navigate through a game and keep hitters off balance for, more than one inning. That's what relievers are. And the reason why in a long series it plays out, relievers are less effective the more times hitters see them. So if you go to your bullpen in game 1 and they get a 1, 2, 3 inning, well, okay, that's great, but if you have to go to that same reliever like 3, 4 times in that series, chances are that's the other thing that isn't taken into consideration. Chances are these relievers, they've been exposed. The book's out on them, and everybody, all these relievers are throwing 100 miles per hour now, so that's not even an advantage anymore. Like I was looking at this kid they brought in last night. The Dodgers had him. I don't even remember his name. Dude's throwing 102. Remember when Aroldis Chapman came up? He was throwing 102. Nobody had seen it before. Now Aroldis Chapman doesn't even throw that hard anymore.
He's slow. He's got a great changeup at 98.
Exactly. He's throwing 98, which is great, but it's not 102. And it's baseball. I think has a huge issue on their hands with this, this activity problem. And I was just so fired up because. And Blake Snell's one thing, but it brought me back to the Garrett Cole decision. I mean, the Yankees brought Garrett Cole in to pitch a game 5 or a game 7 or a big game in the playoffs. That's why he's on the Yankees, right? Theoretically.
Yeah.
Why sign a guy like that if you're going to take the ball from him in the 5th inning? It doesn't make any sense when he's throwing a one hitter.
You get the call from
like
upstairs.
Why? They signed him for 9 years, $345 million, so he can give you 5 innings. They basically took Garrett Cole and they turned him into Masahiro Tanaka. It doesn't make any sense. We already have Masahiro Tanaka. We need Garrett Cole.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just drives me absolutely crazy. I was so fired up. I couldn't wait to get out
You're
and
not
talk
giving
about
off
this.
that vibe at all. You don't give off that vibe at all.
But like, what are your thoughts on it though?
I think you know what, I have not enjoyed really watching the way baseball has been playing, but I also I want a horse. I want a guy that if he's pitching, he'll go get you 8, he'll go get you 9. I want to see an argument at the mound. Like, no, like, go away. And also I like to see baseball guys be baseball guys. Like, have a manager say, you know what, like, we're riding.
I'm here.
This is I'm making the decision, but
I'm watching the game.
They're not hired like that now. They don't want that. No, and
they won't get the job if they make decisions that way. It's part of it.
Yeah, no, that's
talk about off topic though. But baseball guys being baseball guys, I think the most outrageous rule, or if it's even a rule in sports, is the Yankees no long hair, no facial hair policy.
Really?
That's another thing that drives me absolutely crazy. It's like, why can't Garrett Cole keep his beard and his long hair? That's part of what makes Garrett Cole Garrett Cole. Remember when the Yankees brought in Randy Johnson? Yeah. And he had to shave and he had to cut his hair. He even looked like Randy Johnson.
Looks like an alien.
Like, wait a second, who's this guy? This guy's like an 8th grade science teacher. This ain't Randy Johnson. We signed Randy Johnson. This is not him. And it's gonna take, like, remember Johnny Damon came to the Yankees. He had to shave. These guys are like
Brian McCann.
We just take these guys and we cut their balls off of them, make them shave. It's like ridiculous. They're baseball players.
I think there's a way that you can say, hey, we're not letting the big beards, but you can have facial hair as long as it's well kept. And
I mean, I don't even think you should. Yeah. Why? Well, these guys are playing baseball, and the reason why that they keep it in play is because they want to honor George Steinbrenner, and the way to honor George Steinbrenner is to win
championships.
That's how you honor George Steinbrenner. I don't think it doesn't matter. Like. And what it's going to take, I have this conversation with my brother all the time. The only way you're getting rid of that is Garrett Cole needs to just, show up to his start next year with a beard and go. It's his day to go. Yeah. And he needs to dare Aaron Boone to not let him go take the field with a full beard. That's the way it's going to change.
And you just keep doing it. And somebody who's
like, you know what, dude?
Money where no matter, you can't find.
I'm ready to pitch. You don't want me to pitch because I got a beard? All right, fine. You could go explain to everybody that I'm not allowed to pitch tonight because I got a beard. And what happens is we get like 90% of Garrett Cole.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not the same Garrett Cole. It's mental. I'm a guy. You have a beard. I have a beard. Like, it's just mental. It's like there's something about it.
The only way I get rid of my beard is if Stacey yells at me.
What's that?
The only way I get rid of the beard is if Stacey yells at me.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing. Like, you don't want to. You don't feel like it. Like, these guys are neutered now. Come on, let the guy have a beard. We signed Garrett Cole here. We signed Randy Johnson. It didn't even look like him. So
it's nuts.
A little off topic, but I'm telling you, it's part of why
facial hair episode.
Yeah, it's part of what makes the Yankees, and then like they just don't look like they're having any fun out there. It's like they're trying to make it look corporate, and it's so annoying. And then now they're listening to Brian Cashman in his room full of geeks and making decisions, and that's what the Rays did last night.
Overrated general manager in baseball,
Brian Cashman.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. I don't think.
Funny, the past 5-6 years when the money's really evened out, you see how average he is at best.
Brian Cashman. I mean, we could do shows upon shows of the failed decisions he's had, and it blows my mind that he's not blamed more. He has whiffed so badly on building pitching over the years. It's ridiculous. I mean, he really could have had Garrett Cole a couple years ago,
but didn't want to give up the right price.
But he didn't want to trade Miguel Andujar, right? So Miguel Andujar doesn't even have a position now.
Yeah,
like he's not even on the team really. He's not good enough to play third base. He doesn't hit enough to be a DH. If we would have just included him in the Garrett Cole deal a couple of years ago, we would have kept him from going to Houston, and he would have pitched for the Yankees, and they probably would have won the World Series that year. The year before that, Justin Verlander was available at the waiver wire deadline. Could have had him for nothing. Just would have had to pay his contract. he blamed it on the fact that Hal Steinbrenner didn't want to spend the additional money because of their payroll. Okay, I can't blame Hal.
Steinbrenner didn't want to spend money.
What's that?
When was the last time a Steinbrenner?
No, I mean he actually basically, I can't blame Hal for that because he looked at Cashman and said, "Really, I'm spending $250 million. I'm not spending any more money." And that's still Cashman's fault because look at the contract he doled out to Jacoby Ellsbury, who wasn't even playing, which was one of the most. Brian Cashman has signed.
That's the worst.
By the time Stanton's runs out, it'll be 3 of the absolute worst contracts in sports history. By the time they're all done, it'll be Jacoby Ellsbury, A-Rod's second deal, where we opted out and he re-signed him and paid him more, and Giancarlo Stanton, because he's got like 8 or 9 years left, and he already can't stay on the field. Wait till Giancarlo Stanton's 40 years old, getting paid $35 million, and there is going to be a mutiny.
Well, he's going to be at home.
Right, he'll be home. They'll have to get rid of him. They won't even let him. They can't even have him in a dugout because they'll want to have. The hope will be is everybody will forget he's on the team, and that's what they did with Ellsbury. And Brian Cashman did all of those deals, and he still is regarded as some kind of great GM. He's not.
Got to go away. He's got to go away.
He's got to go. I'm convinced that as long as Brian Cashman's running the show, the Yankees aren't winning the World Series. They did win in 2009. That was the year that they signed CC, Teixeira, and AJ Burnett.
Yeah.
CC worked out pretty good for him. Teixeira was probably a mediocre signing. AJ Burnett gave you 1 year, and that was that. But A-Rod really he was out of control in that playoffs, and that's why he carried the team to the World Series that year. That happened. But can you imagine if that didn't happen? I mean, it would be since 2000.
Oh, yeah.
And this is all under Brian Cashman's watch, and it's all his fault.
Well, on that one, we're gonna make a quick. Well,
I told you we could make shows upon shows about that.
We do have to do a quick transition to basketball, NBA, before we're out because we're out of here in like 10 minutes. Season restart December 22nd, possibly.
Has that been determined?
It's all but signed. It's supposedly a $500 million difference in revenue, which means the difference of the players withholding between 25 and 30% of their paychecks at the end of the year to holding anywhere from 40 to 50% of their paychecks.
No, they were talking about starting originally on Martin Luther King Day, right?
Yeah, exactly. But they found out that if by starting on the 22nd,
so it's a money decision.
Oh, it's all about money, not one player health, player safety, whatever you want. It always comes out the window. It's and they're hoping they're able to. What I've talked about, and I'm sure you and I have in the past, they're going to try to have fans in the arenas in sections. It's going to be the haves and the have-nots. It's going to be, if you want in, those $10,000 seats, it's going to be, an exclusive.
Or are they going to gouge the prices too?
Oh, 110%. What else can you do? It's going to be, maybe.
Why not just sell the tickets for what the face is and just sell less of them? That's not an option, apparently, huh?
I don't think that's going to happen because they've allowed people to opt out of their season tickets. So at that point, you can really do what you want with it. We got NFL free agency and the drafts coming up. I don't even.
Well, you mean NBA free agency?
NBA free agency and the draft coming up the 17th, 18th. The drafts, and free agency is going to go right through the start of the season. Like, people are going to be signing guys beforehand. We don't know what they're going to have to do, if they're going to have to quarantine after they get signed for, you've been somewhere else. So you might get signed on the 10th. You've got to quarantine. You can't play on the 22nd if it's opening night. We're going to have to do another episode just on the NBA.
Yeah, it sounds like
you and I wanted to discuss Gordon Hayward and family possibly leaving Boston.
Yeah.
And he's been up for a trade option on the trading block. I'm not a fan of trading him. I think I like him in Boston. I actually like him as the point guard. I think you play him at the point.
You mentioned that.
I mentioned that before. But you and I discussed his wife doesn't like it here.
No.
Well, not here, but in Boston. Doesn't like Boston. And that's between him, Betts, Brady, Kyrie, Horford. Who else did we miss that? Gronk.
Gronkowski.
Decided Boston wasn't for them.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, I don't know. I think there's something to it. Well, I think the Betts deal was mostly, or at least, what was speculated on was like a racially motivated type of thing. I mean, there's a lot of whispers about that.
Yeah.
I also think there's something to do with how the organization treats their players when they leave. I mean, you saw that with like Nomar too, and Johnny Damon. What's that?
Manny Ramirez, the smear campaign.
Ramirez, yeah, absolutely. Really, the only athlete that's really a legend in Boston that still is, tied to Boston is David Ortiz.
Yeah.
He's really the only guy that is still, he retired as a Red Sox, and even like Dustin Pedroia, people are soured on him.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's culturally, and I think it's the organizations, but there's a definite issue. There's definitely something to it. I mean, say what you will about Kyrie Irving, but I mean, Boston put a lot of stock into making that deal for him. They were going to build a team around him, and then he just said, "Yo, I'm out of here. Like, I don't want to be here." And if it was just Kyrie Irving, you could say, well, Kyrie Irving's, he's a spoiled prima donna and he doesn't want to play for the Celtics, and that's, that happens. I get it. But Al Horford's never been viewed as that. Tom Brady couldn't wait to get out of here. And that you could say that could have something to do with Belichick, but he was treated well by the owner, that's for sure. And you get the sense that Brady like really wants to stick it to that organization. And you saw, I mean, he just
not at
brought in
all.
Antonio Brown.
Yeah.
Anytime, I mean, he's no friend to Robert Kraft if he's bringing in Antonio Brown. I'll tell you that right now, especially after what Antonio Brown had said about Robert Kraft on his way out the door. So Brady clearly has burned bridges here. Gronkowski would rather retire than play, and now he's back in Tampa Bay. So what does that tell you? And then now we're seeing it with Hayward. There's talk that Hayward has a deal with his wife that, he went down to the bubble, and the plan is that he's going to opt out or, request a sign and trade and go back to Indiana.
Yeah.
And they also let it leak that she wanted him to sign in Miami and he wanted to, go play for Brad Stevens. So basically that's run out. So I think all the sports franchises in Boston have got a little bit of an issue on their hands when it comes to retaining their talent. Why does everybody want to get out of here? I mean, it's a great place to live. The fan base cares. There's an invested fan base. What is it? I don't know. I'm just a hypothetical question. I have no idea what it is. But
Do you think it's maybe that the fan base cares a little too much and there's no separation, and maybe you're excited to play for a fan base that is all in, but you know how New Englanders are with their sports. It's maybe they want to be able to go someplace and have a little bit of a break. Maybe in Tampa, where I feel like maybe they don't really they care about the Bucks now, but you can kind of go about it's not, if you lose a game, it's not
that could be it,
and it's not in your face all the time.
But I don't think that's the case with Brady, because Brady's a global icon.
Yeah.
And Brady would have played it. He chose Tampa Bay because of, Bruce Arians and the pieces that they have there, probably for the climate too, because of Giselle. But I don't think Brady would have went and played anywhere if he felt the situation was right, as long as it wasn't New England, really. And I don't know, does the Celtics really get that like rabid fan base type of reputation? I don't know. I think it's more you see that in for Red Sox fans and Patriots fans.
Being a Celtics fan, I think you have your core group, but in general, it's a lot of fair weather fans. A lot of current Celtics fans that weren't there in the lean years.
So we'll see what happens with it, though. But I definitely heard that he's looking to get out. So we'll see. We'll see what the Celtics end up doing.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting for sure. For sure.
Yeah, it's been a tough week plus for Boston sports fans after having a great run.
Yeah.
Now you watch Mookie Betts go, and he was great last night too.
Yeah.
Mookie Betts, he's a great player. he goes and wins a ring with the Dodgers. You got Brady rolling down in Tampa Bay with Gronkowski. You got Gordon Hayward trying to get out of here. You just had to watch the Lakers and LeBron win the NBA Finals. I don't really follow hockey, so I don't know what's going on there. But it's been difficult for and the Red Sox were in the toilet this year, and they've really become a bit of a mess. So, and the Yankees didn't win a World Series, but they're in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Obviously, higher prospects. So it's been I guess all good things have to come to an end.
Yeah. Well, on that, we have no fantasy draft today. No mailbag. We're obviously in the transition with the new show. What'd you think? I kind of dug the new layout, added some stuff outside of sports. What do you think?
Yeah, I always like that. And as even with that, you're always able to tie in sports.
Yeah.
Sports is such a fabric of our society that you can tie it into everything. And I meant what I said, but I think sports is important to show us the way back.
Yeah.
People watch sports and it's like, okay, game's on, it's normal. Like, yeah, I got to wear a mask everywhere I go, and we got this crazy unrest and political divisiveness, but I'm still able to watch my game, and I can go out to restaurants. It's a little different, but it's not. I think it's been helpful for people's sanity to have sports back. I know that for a fact for myself.
Yeah.
But I think I speak for a lot of people when I say that. So it's important, and you could always tie it in.
Yeah, I would agree. Well, another great episode.
Yeah. Well, good luck with paternity leave.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure we'll be talking, obviously. Yeah. But in a few weeks, we'll come back. Who knows? Maybe we'll be able to sneak in a few mini episodes.
You could do a live diary of diaper changes and bottle feedings.
I would say I would stream from the hospital on Wednesdays, but I don't think that'll be approved by hospital staff.
Oh boy,
a lot of HIPAA violations.
That could be it. That's probably not the only thing you have to worry about.
But guys,
good luck.
Thank you, and another great episode of Now We Talkin', the Matt and Toddcast, and talk soon. Later, bud.
All right, buddy.